Hi, so my name is Alberto Accomazzi. I'm the program manager for the NASA Astrophysics Data System, which functions primarily as an aggregator of scholarly literature. So we're an indexing service. The primary community that we serve is the astronomy and astrophysics community, but we've actually indexed other areas of physics, especially the ones that are most cited and connected to astronomy. Such as high energy physics or geophysics or other such things. So in a way, we are, my primary interest in being here today is not as an author of a blog, but as an information provider who is trying to understand what is the relevance of blogs in the scholarly discourse that is taking place around the community that we serve. As you can see here, we're funded by NASA with 12 million records. The goal is not necessarily to cover everything, but to cover things that are relevant to astronomy and that facilitate and improve the discourse in scholarly communication in astronomy. We have, over 15 years ago, we started indexing content that is not strictly publications, journal articles. So we started including research proposals, observing proposals. Those are the documents that an astronomer would write to have access time on a telescope or funds to conduct some research such as computing time or simulations. And so blogs are certainly being considered as another source that is non-traditional content, but that is used by scholars. And finally, I will show you in a moment that we are an Orkut-aware service and how we've integrated that into our operations. So one of the questions when Pat invited me here, I started asking myself, well, actually, I know we don't go out and actively index blogs at the moment, but that's a good question to ask ourselves. Are blogs something that are not only used by astronomers to communicate in informal ways, but are they actually mentioned or even cited in the literature? So using our own search engine, you can just search the full text and see what happens when you search the astronomy collection that we index. And you can see that most of the hits, in fact, if you go through, are about blogs, and it's not about logarithms, but it's about actual blogs. They're not a whole lot. I think the numbers are about 100 mentions of blogs per year in basically mostly refereed but some unrefereed astronomy publications. And considering the amount of content that we index, that's about 0.2% of all publications. But this is clearly a trend that could pick up, especially if, as it was mentioned, people were starting to get recognition for this kind of activity. They certainly play an important role in educating students. There's a very popular blog called astrobytes.org where PhD students essentially explain in more easier to understand language technical papers that have been written by astronomers and published on scholarly journals. So another topic I wanted just to quickly touch upon, as I mentioned, how does this non-traditional content become citable in ADS? Not everything has a DOI, although increasingly more things do. So, we've been taught if something has a DOI, it should be used in the citation. The tradition in astronomy is actually to use the form of citing something using journal, volume, and page. Even when DOIs exist, typically people don't use them, and that's not ideal, but it's something that may change. But here is a list of all the publication types that we index, ranked in order of frequency. So, the plain old article is the most frequent one that we cover, but then we have where the article appears, whether it's in a preceding paper or journal, etc. As you can see, there's a lot of non-standard things, although they're very low numbers. And one of them could be someday a blog if we decide to pursue that. From an astronomer's perspective, once something is in ADS, it becomes citable in the sense that it's easy to generate a machine-readable snippet of text that they can put in their paper. Most astronomers use LaTeX and BibTeX to do this. So you grab the BibTeX. Here's an example of an online catalog. You put that in the paper, and in general, the journals will accept that. And to close the circle, once that citation appears in the reference section, then we parse that content when the paper is published and assign the citation to the author of the manuscript of the data catalog or whatever. Orkut integration comes in the sense that even for publication or works that we index which are not born Orkut aware, meaning where the author name has not been associated with an Orkut, people can claim Orkut, claim these works through our user interface. There's an option in our system that allows you to turn on this Orkut claiming, performs authentication with Orkut, and then you can use our UI to actually send claims to the Orkut registry. Not only we do that, but we also index that information in our system, so whether the Orkut data came from the publisher or was provided by the user through this mechanism, that content will then be searchable and indexed in our system. So I'm mostly here, this is all I wanted to show. I'd love to hear everybody's opinion about the suitability of this content for a system like our own, and given the fact that we don't necessarily make these decisions top-down, but we want to see where our community is going and what their opinion is of these new forms of communications. Thank you.
Great.